Cimoooooooo! What's going on, guys? It's Cimo. So today I'm bringing to you the worst of Yu-Gi-Oh! In 2019. Now, a few days ago, I brought to you the best of Yu-Gi-Oh! In 2019, so I highly recommend checking out that video. I know I said I'd bring you guys this video a little bit sooner than this, but I had some stuff come up, but don't worry, everything is fine. And today we're going to be covering the worst, and oh boy, is there plenty of stuff to talk about. Now, I want to preface this video by saying I'm not making this video to like aimlessly bash Konami or anything like that. The purpose is I want to bring up things that didn't really go well in 2019 so that we can actually improve upon them to make Yu-Gi-Oh! Even better for 2020, because if we don't address these issues or basically face the facts of what happened is the reality, then we're not really going to be able to productively and actively move forward in figuring out how we can improve things for the following year. So before we get into it, I want to let you guys know that this weekend is Pro Play Tour Las Vegas on Sunday, December 15th. A $2,000 prize pool is up for grabs, only $20 to enter. If you get your invite, you're invited to the $10,000 invitational taking place in January, and I'll of course be there doing live stream commentary coverage for the event. There's also a Konami sanctioned regional on the day before, the 14th, so you get two events in one weekend. So links are in the description if you want to pre-register, and I really hope to see you guys there. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into it. Now, the first thing I want to start this list off with, and probably the least impactful, which is why I want to get it out of the way first, is the new verification rules. Yeah, remember how Mind Crush used to be a pretty good competitive card, and then all of a sudden overnight it became virtually worthless? Yeah, well, that's due in part to the new verification rules, which happened this year. And again, I think out of everything we're going to discuss in this video, this is probably like the most trivial out of all of them, just simply due to the fact that, yeah, it makes Mind Crush worthless. It kind of caused some, you know, discord between probably some individuals, I imagine, but like, is it the biggest change? Not really. Like, it does kind of suck in some instances. Like, if your opponent attempts to like search a target out of their deck and they don't have any valid targets for it, you can't ask to look at their deck anymore because that provided so much valuable information. Or in some instances, maybe they're just flat out lying and there's no way that you can know about it because the rules now don't allow us to check. I think in the beginning it kind of caused a few issues, but now for the most part, depending on the format, I don't think it really matters all that much. But again, it's just one of those things I thought I'd bring up because, you know, again, I think most people have kind of just accepted it at this point because it's like not the end of the world, but it really wasn't too great nonetheless. But moving on to the next topic, oh boy, is there a lot to talk about, and that is the sets of this year were just rather lackluster, and I can't be the only one who feels this way, right? Now, I know a lot of you guys might be thinking, oh, he's gonna go immediately to, you know, the deck building sets, right? Like Infinity Chasers and Mystic Fighters and Fists of the Gadgets, which, to be fair, all of those sets were pretty terrible if we're gonna be completely candid about it, but even some of the core sets, like, weren't really that impressive to me. I think Rising Rampage, as well as Chaos Impact, really left a lot to be desired, and I think what really kind of bolstered those sets' popularity was the inclusion of the Prismatic Secret Rares, which is fine, but I think it was almost a distraction from the fact that there wasn't really a lot going on in these sets. And I'm going to talk about this more a little bit later on because it goes in conjunction with, I think, like the biggest issue with 2019, which you guys might already be able to guess where that's going, but for the most part, I wasn't really too exciting with a lot of the sets that were coming out. I talked in my best of 2019, there were still some good products that we got. You know, there was the structure decks, there were some of the products that were pretty much the reprint products. I thought those are some of the best products, not only of the year, but of like the past like decade probably, but a lot of like the main core products, which is like supposed to be like the new and exciting stuff that gets people to keep playing and buy more product. It wasn't really that good overall when you look at it in the grand scope of things. And feel free to disagree with me in the comments, but I think there wasn't really a lot that got people excited in those sets, apart from maybe like a couple cards, or maybe if you're talking about the deck building sets, some of the reprints. And I think the worst part about it, and this is going to be an extension of that same point, is that when you're looking at the products, specifically the deck building sets in this case, so Infinity Chasers, Mystic Fighters, and Fist of the Gadgets, the biggest issue with this is that not only did the cards have a lack of desirability from a majority of the player base, but then they're also incredibly expensive because the cards got short printed into oblivion. Like, the short print problem needs to come to an end. We've dealt with short prints forever now, right? And I mean, this is something that it's sadly that we've just come to expect at this point. And really at this point, it's not about if the cards got short printed, but like how short printed they actually got. Like, if we see the breakdown of like case ratios and the short prints aren't really looking too bad, then we don't really complain complain about it because it's like, oh, well, we know where it's been like back in like Secret Forces when Necros of Brionac was like 1 per 4 cases or whatever ridiculous ratio it was. Like, we've seen bad short prints, but it seems like in 2019, the short print issue is getting far worse than it ever has been, and I think that's slightly concerning. Like, I can understand if you're gonna short print stuff that's like highly in demand, but I don't understand short printing cards from sets that people aren't even really that excited about. That's kind of just like a 1-2 slap to the face, because it's like, oh, here's a set you're not really excited about, but if you're part of like the 3% of people who do want the product, then guess what? The chances of you getting what you want are gonna be like slim to none. Like, why not just further alienate your player base and the people who actually buy your product by continuing to short print the product? Like, it doesn't make sense to me. I think the point I'm trying to make here is that if you make a product that is enticing to all aspects of the player base, which does, to be fair, sound like a bit of a pipe dream, but you've done it in the past, so it's not impossible. The thing is, you actually will make a product that can sell itself. You don't have to worry about short printing product to fulfill any sort of greedy fantasies you may have to get people to buy more product, because guess what? If the product's good, it'll sell itself and people will be naturally excited about it instead of having to artificially bolster sales because you purposefully short printed specific cards. That's all I want to say. I mean, I just think the short printing issue is getting completely out of hand, and it's something that really has to be addressed, because whether you're a competitive player, a casual player, or a collector, there is no excuse for this level of short printing. The thing is though, you never have to worry about short printing if you use my TCG Player affiliate link down in the description and buy your singles on there. Just keep that in mind. But short prints aside, I want to move on to the next topic, and this is going to circle back to what I was referring to earlier when it comes to the new sets being lackluster, and that is the fact that the format now is almost like exactly the same as it was back in January. Like, can you believe that? Now, obviously it was different. Back in January, it was just like Striker Thunder format with like some Altergeist mixed in, and then in February, we got the Soul Burner structure deck, so we knew that deck was going to be good, so that entered the fray. And then in May, I think, we got a Dark Neostorm, which brought Dingirsu into the game and pretty much pushed Orcust into the top tiers of competitive play. And then, like, that was it. Like, it's been the same format for the most part for like 7 months, with those 4 decks kind of just like altering spots at the top tiers of play, and we really haven't had anything new. And yes, we've had a bunch of other rogue decks get pushed up, and the top decks have been hit on several ban lists, but we've still been playing like the exact same game over the course of a year. Isn't that a little bit too much, don't you think? I mean, Sky Striker is almost entering its 2nd year of tier 1 status. Like, that to me, I feel like is far too long for any deck to be at the top. Thunder Dragon's not too far behind. I think Thunder Dragon was released towards the end of 2018, so that deck is almost just as old as Sky Striker at this point. And Salamangreat and Orcust, you know, they've been around for a while now, but I mean, not nearly as long compared to Thunder or Sky Striker. There definitely has to be a change, right? And where does change come from? Well, when you get new products released into the game and there's solid archetypes included in those products, that's how the metagame starts to shift. But as I referred to earlier, when it came to the products being lackluster, we haven't really had anything to really inject itself into the metagame to really shake things up. We haven't had like a new Salamangreat. We haven't had like a new Orcust. None of the archetypes in these core sets, or even these deck building sets for that matter, because keep in mind, Sky Striker was from a deck building set. None of these new archetypes over the course of the entire year have made any sort of impact into the competitive metagame, at least at like the top tier status. Yeah, at like the rogue status, you're gonna see some more rogue decks fluctuating, and that's perfectly fine, but I think when it comes from a competitive perspective, people sometimes want to play something different. People get sick and tired of playing the same old deck and same old matchups over and over and over again. It starts to get incredibly stale, and from what I saw from you guys reporting down in the comments, this was pretty much overwhelmingly the biggest flaw of 2019, and again, this is why I'm saying we need to have sets that actually drive excitement and generate a lot of, you know, new things into the game, because if we don't, then we're basically waiting for a ban list to do the job for us. But we've had how many ban lists with this format, and the decks are still all at the top because there's no new archetypes that can outclass or even go toe-to-toe with any of the current top decks. That's a little bit frightening for me as well, because looking to the future at a set like Ignition Assault, there really isn't anything in Ignition Assault that's going to change things either. Yeah, there's new cards coming out, and we've had new cards in every set, obviously, and a few of them splash their way into the meta here and there, but nothing that's going to overwhelmingly change the anatomy of the pie charts that we've been seeing. I just really hope there's something in 2020 that shakes things up, whether it's the new deck building set that just got announced, or maybe Rise of the Duelist and the potential for a Master Rule 5. Whatever it takes, we need something, because I'm pretty sure I'm sick of the top 5 decks, and I'm pretty sure you guys are as well. I love the diversity at like everything beneath that, and the fact there's like 10 to 15 decks that can competitively fight in like the tier 2 and rogue status, but we need to change things up a bit. Now, the last thing I want to discuss when it comes to the worst of Yu-Gi-Oh! In 2019, oh boy, the end of match procedures. Now, we've had these for what, like a year and a half now, give or take, and I think in like a perfect utopic society, these make sense, right? Because you get out of a regional on time around like 6 or 7, you can still go to dinner, you know, you get on with your day. It seems like a reasonable time to actually go and play an activity you enjoy. YCSs get out on time, you know, it all makes sense. However, I don't think it's played out that way, and I don't think it's worth relinquishing the gameplay experience for what, you know, they are technically envisioning for when it comes to these end of match procedures. Why does it have to end on the current phase? If you ended at the end of the turn, or I think ideally the compromise at this point would be the end of turn plus a turn for your opponent, I still feel like we get out at like approximately the same time, but then people won't feel like they got cheated out of a win simply due to the fact that the end of match procedures are the way that they are. These end of match procedures have also encouraged lots of toxic behavior. Everyone just hates these end of match procedures when they know they're going into game 3 with like 2 minutes left on the clock. It's just a horrible feeling, and you know it's something that's completely out of your control, and sometimes it's something that you can't control because the games sometimes run long, maybe there's a grindy game, so why would you purposely like just destroy your own gameplay experience at the cost of just getting out on time a little bit earlier? We've even seen at some of the big tournaments this year that it hasn't even mattered, and some of the YCSs still haven't gotten out till like 10, 11 o'clock at night regardless, even with the new end of match procedure. So if we're still getting out late, then what's the point? My whole point here is, I'm just saying that we need to reevaluate this as a whole. I think collectively the community has agreed that if there's the turn player can finish their current turn and then the opposing player gets a turn as well, I think that's something that feels like a pretty good middle ground between what we currently have and the 5 turns we had before, so that way people don't feel cheated out of their experience, we still get out at a reasonable time, and then everyone feels pretty good about it. Maybe that's just my opinion, but you guys can let me know down in the comments below. So guys, that's gonna wrap it up for the worst of Yu-Gi-Oh! In 2019. Ultimately, like I said, I don't think this was a horrible year. I think we've definitely had much worse, but it can definitely be a lot better, and so hopefully this video is going to serve as a framework for what we can improve moving into 2020. So guys, thank you so much for watching the video. Be sure to like the video as always, subscribe to the channel for more amazing Yu-Gi-Oh! Content, and if you found this video informative, consider supporting me on Patreon or becoming a YouTube channel member, because just by showing your support in any way that you can, you're investing in my ability to continue bringing you amazing Yu-Gi-Oh! Content. So thanks so much again, and we'll see you next time.